Welcome to Flattening the Curve, a podcast to disability advocates. Here, we knock down barriers, one story at a time. I'm your host, John Couchy. Let us begin. Okay, today we have two guests, both of which are a part of a great local advocacy movement known as Unstoppable Kent. Let's welcome Casey Dutmer and Michael Williams. How you guys doing today?
Good. Doing good. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, gents, before we begin talking about Unstoppable Kent, I would appreciate if both of you can kind of introduce yourself to our audience. Casey, do you mind starting?
Well, thank you. My name is Casey Dutmer. I was born in Wyoming, Michigan, and lived here most of my life, a few years in Kalamazoo and a little bit time in Seattle, and training for my job in Cleveland, and I ended my career in Lansing. I've been an advocate since 1973. Joined the Michigan Association of the Blind. That's what it was called back then. I've been involved with the blind and disability movement. I've been involved with the Department of Social Services had a 504 committee because I had a snack bar there. I was in the Business Enterprise Program for 31 years under the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. Went into all different buildings. And when I was in Kent County, they had in 1978, when the regulations of 504 was amended, I was on that committee. I was involved in the ADA process here in 1989 before it passed. We worked for support for that. In our local chapter of the Michigan Association of the Blind at the time, we had a coalition of different organizations, and we participated in the Festival of the Arts when it was relatively new. We had a booth, and we divided the funds up between all the different organizations, of the disabled organizations. And then politics kicked us out of the festival, so the coalition split up, and then disability advocates wanted to start another coalition, and for the blind and low vision community, it was a very learning experience working with other disabilities, and we had to find our place, and they had to learn how to deal with us. And so we've been involved with disability advocates for quite a few years when we had the Concerned Citizens for Improved Transportation, and we were able to get sidewalks along 28th Street. We extended those by 7 miles. It took us several years to do it, but and now we're here on, we did countywide transportation about 15 years ago, something like that. And now here we are again talking about this subject. And so that's kind of a little synopsis about me.
Yeah, you've had a long history of advocacy work, and I think it was alluded to in that biography, but not outright stated. And if you can, for our audience, you are in fact blind yourself?
I am totally blind, yes. All my life been born that way.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mike, how about a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Michael Williams. I'm a community organizer at Disability Advocates. Haven't been doing this work quite as long as Casey, a little over 20 years myself, but here at Disability Advocates, my real goal is working towards a more inclusive, diverse, equitable, accessible, and liberating, or as we say, ideal transportation solutions. I've got a long history, as a community organizer, like I said, starting out 20 years ago with flyering, did some signature gathering, participating in marches and other demonstrations of civil disobedience. In those early days, it was largely cannabis or big oil. And I was young and angry, but they were formative years to, where I would find myself professionally growing up. Eventually found myself learning a lot about the history of social justice and movement organizations, and decided to enroll at Ferris State to study communication with a focus in public advocacy. Since then, I've helped lead several state ballot initiative efforts, work in sustainability and environmental justice for large music festivals, temporary communities, schools, harm reduction work across the state of Michigan, and other drug policy advocacy.
And I've been able to see your work in action in the past. Most notably, I've been able to follow you to Lansing at an advocacy event on a lobby day, and you definitely seem like you are at home lobbying.
I have no problem talking to absolutely anyone. The thing is, I'm very nonpartisan in advocacy work. I find an issue that matters and I stick to the issue. And generally, all issues affect all people. And so learning how to talk to an individual about how an issue affects them without towing a party line makes it a little bit more engaging. And because I'm kind of a natural there, I find it really enjoyable.
Yeah. Now, specifically, we're here today to talk about the advocacy group that you are both a part of. Can you guys explain what is Unstoppable Kent?
I guess, yeah, I'll start with this one. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, no pun intended. Simply organizing around very real decision-making processes that are happening currently within our region and will affect transportation and mobility for all people over the next 10 to 20 years. Our main goal is accessible, affordable, available transportation for all through Kent County and beyond. But there's a theme there. We want to be able to access. We want it to be accessible. We want to be able to afford it. We want it to be affordable. We want it to be available when we need, for what we need. We're building a movement towards a more equitable system for all. When can we get where we need, when we need, for whatever reason? What do we become? Unstoppable. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to organize individuals, organizations, and anybody that moves in Kent County. That means if you work, play, use medical services, go to shows, go to the park, walk your dog, sleep, doesn't matter. If you're here in Kent County and you're doing anything, movement is part of that. Getting from point A to point B is part of that. And with the large decision-making processes that are happening right now, such as the countywide mobility task force we'll talk about, and the Rapids 20-year master plan that they're releasing very soon, having the community's voice as part of what we're building for a community is important. And often these decisions happen behind closed doors. There isn't an organized transportation effort in the community. And so we're really trying to become that.
Casey, anything you'd like to add?
Well, one of the reasons why we needed to form this organization and have is because we kind of lost our way trying to figure out how to move forward with this stuff. And I've had experience with dialogue and mediation and strategic planning with different models. And a number of years ago, we started Disability Advocates did using the Midwest Academy training model, and people kind of lost it and lost track of it and didn't understand it. And so I helped bring it back, and with Mike did one part, I kind of directed a little bit about where we should start. Then Mike changed things and worked things through as we work together on it. So we've kind of mapped out pretty much a little bit of a chart on where we want to go and who our targets are and who our allies, opponents, and constituents are, and all that sort of thing. There's 5 different things you work with: goals and targets and that sort of thing. And so we are making progress on that. I probably bring a different voice to the group because I'm a little more conservative than some of the people. We also have people who are kind of in the middle of the whole thing. And so I think we have a reasonably respectful discussion despite some of the differences.
So to sum up and correct me if I'm wrong, Unstoppable Kent is a collaborative strategic effort to advocate for truly inclusive travel through ensuring accessibility, equity, and availability.
Absolutely. I think as Casey said, it is important to acknowledge this isn't new. It is a rebrand, a regrouping of efforts that have been going and have ebbed and flowed for, as Casey pointed out, last time we tried for countywide was 15 or so years ago. The transition from Grata to the Rapid and making our bus lines accessible. This work isn't new, but it is Unstoppable Kent is a new face trying to reliven that energy and movement through, as you say, good strategy and collaboration and planning.
And you guys have a lot of history and previous education backing this unstoppable force. So I guess when we are talking about transportation, what are we actually talking about?
We're talking about all different ways of getting around, whether it be bus, access to the airport, trains. Of course, we only have the Amtrak here, but if you look at the task forces that have been out there, the 2030 Mobile Metro Task Force that I was on, that was out 15 years ago, and the current thing they're working on now, the Rapid, in their 20-year plan, rail is one of the things they talk about. It has never moved too much forward in that whole time. But and then we're talking about accessibility. So if we get somewhere, like say in the downtown area where they're building the soccer stadium and the arena, the theater, whatever you want to call it, we have to make sure that we can travel and get there. But when we get there, can we enter is it accessible to enter? One of the things we found during COVID was that when the reopening of Grand Rapids began, they had talked about giving us prototypes of reopening and what it would look like to have outdoor restaurants, but that never happened. So when they opened these up, people found who were in wheelchairs or traveling that getting to those venues was not accessible. So it's not just about transportation, although that's a big part of it. It's about mobility and being able to access those venues we go to.
I think Casey alludes to a very good point there. It's not about transportation. We're talking about mobility. And what do I mean by that? Like, when we say transportation, we immediately think about roads. We immediately think about single-user vehicles. We think about buses, which use roads. But we are talking about sidewalks. We are talking about social districts, as Casey mentioned, popping up, creating barriers on our sidewalks for accessibility. We're talking about how do we make a blend of social district and still have an accessible pathway and make those social districts accessible. Because part of going to a place is being able to access it and use it. It does us no good to get moved from point A to point B if we can't do anything at point B. And mobility includes our entry to the building, includes us accessing and being able to do all those things. It is about that sidewalk, the parking, that infrastructure that, as Casey said, allude to the transit-oriented development. If we're building a new amphitheater, if we're building a soccer stadium, if we're building an aquarium, we need to prioritize modes of transportation that move more people more effectively than trying to raise the parking lot question again. You ask anybody in the city of Grand Rapids, and they will almost always tell you parking's a problem in Grand Rapids. Yet we've reached a mass concentration of vehicles and roads. We can't make the roads downtown or in the populated areas any larger. They can't support more single-user vehicles. Yet our population is in fact growing. We're trying to become an attractive place for more people to live and do business. The only way to solve the parking problem is to have a road that doesn't prioritize single-user vehicles, but a path that provides modes of transportation that work for all people. We need multiple tools in our toolkit, not one approach. And Michigan, being the home of the big three in the Motor City, we've been the epitome of creating infrastructure after single-user vehicles. But when you talk to almost anybody, anywhere in the world, and ask them, what's the biggest issue or barrier facing you? They rarely say transportation. But as soon as you answer their number one, whether it's housing, healthcare, fun, getting somewhere, and it's always that last piece, getting somewhere. That's next. How do you get to your hospital, your transportation, your school, your employment? As you start to solve these, transportation is something that breaks barriers. And it's kind of funny because we're talking about barriers in transportation, but it's something we all need. It's something we all do. It's something that connects all the essential pieces of our life, all the pieces that make us not only survive, but allow us to thrive.
And I love that. And that's the goal, is to thrive. Now, both of you have unique histories with transportation. So why is transportation advocacy important to you? Casey, let's hear from you first.
Well, in this area, many of the medical facilities are outside or moving outside of the 6-city rapid corridor. So, and not everybody has the money to do Uber or Lyft or pay a driver. So we need to have, and not everybody's over 60 to qualify for the senior millage. So we need to have, paratransit expanded. We need to have, if not paratransit, some forms of transportation expanded so that, number one, people can get to where they need to go, and they should be able to choose their medical doctors. They shouldn't have to be confined to a limited area. But also, it can't be confusing. It can't be too confusing that people won't use it. So that's really a dilemma that we have. But transportation is important because during COVID, we found out how isolated people really are. And even now, there are a lot of people who are isolated, either because they choose to be or because they have no way of getting to where they should be or where they want to go or for social activities or for whatever the reason. There's a lot of isolation in the disability community. So hopefully having a more of an accessible mobility experience will encourage people to be more involved in the community, more involved in trying to find work, more involved with recreation and developing relationships. So to me, that those are some of the key reasons why we need to have uh, affordable and accessible mobility transportation so that people can get to where they need to go. Because people in the disability community should have the same freedoms as anyone else who has the ability to afford a vehicle or has the means to pay a driver and whatever. People, everyone should have the same opportunity, if possible, to do what they'd like to do for their own work, recreation, medical needs, whatever it may be.
Well, and what you say really speaks home to me because I'm going through a medical treatment right now, and the facility that can offer this treatment is not on the bus line. It is about 2.5 miles away from the nearest bus line. And right now, at the time of recording, we are dealing with that oh so lovely white stuff on the ground, which makes it added difficulty trying to travel that 2.5 miles by foot. And this is a treatment I need to do 2 to 3 times a week. That has made transportation a huge barrier for me to get there. So just sharing with everybody, like, this is something true that many people deal with. And owning a single user vehicle is a luxury that many people take for granted. Mike, you want to share a bit of why it's important to you?
Yeah, I guess for myself, I've been riding the bus since, I don't know, almost 30 years now. I do have a license. I am able to drive. But like Casey, I've lived in this area most of my life. I've also, like Casey, bopped around and done a little bit here and there, but I've always called this home. And because we are at that concentration of people, and we have been for a while, sometimes getting in a car may be faster to get you there, and then you have to fight with cost of parking and maybe the weight of parking, because a lot of our parking lots move in cycles of time based on an event or work times or whatever. And so ultimately, while it feels like you're moving faster, you're actually not saving time and you're spending more money. So for me, I use it a lot in that way. But I have faced a lot of legal barriers in my life that have at times cost me my license. And so I've been forced into using the bus too. But also living downtown, I use this e-scooter system, micro-mobility solutions, a lot. It's not for everybody. It's not an accessible mode of transportation for somebody with an ambulatory issue. But for some people, it works. As somebody who uses these systems and sees how much easier they make my life, I think that's something that everybody could benefit. But I think one of the things Casey brought up, talking about the 6 cities, or, you know, what rides do exist for people over 65, or, you know, with disabilities, or those, what systems do exist.
Yeah, that's kind of a lot of hidden information.
Is, you know, we can't talk about what is needed and what the problem is without also looking at what is there and what are the gaps. And it's not to say, as you know, we've talked about, that this is new. People have been working on this for a while. Currently, the buses are operated in, as Casey said, the 6 cities interurban transit partnership.
Okay, Casey, what are those 6 cities?
They're Granville, Walker, Wyoming, Grand Rapids, East Grand Rapids, and Kentwood.
Wonderful. Ding, ding, ding.
That's exactly right. And it's true. A a lot of our medical facilities are popping up in Cascade, in Byron, in Gaines, in Ada, even, these surrounding areas that the bus doesn't go. We also have a senior millage, which is countywide, which guarantees service up to a capacity for people over the age of 65, that's operated in partnership with several transit providers in the region. Hope Network, Senior Neighbors, Kent County Community Action, all participating in this. However, that is again limited for people that fit a very specific niche demographic within our region. Medical issues are not limited to people over 65. John, your case in point. So to me, we do have a lot of good things happening. We also have a ton of growth based on those systems. I see those new developments and economic opportunities of our region, such as a transit or an amphitheater and a soccer stadium, as means towards transit solvency and transportation solvency for the people of Kent County. But we need to be having these conversations. The whole point of really rallying around a new brand right now is because right now is a critical juncture in mobility for the people of Kent County in a way we haven't seen in 25 years. And, for me, being a transit user in a time where we do have this potential that our region hasn't shown in many years, that's what it's all about. And for me, as a community organizer, having a winnable issue that you can build movement around is my passion. So I'm excited to be part of this because right now is the time. And that's why we're here with you, making a rallying call for Unstoppable Kent.
And when I think of mobility, I grew up in the Metro Detroit area. I had one bus in my city that I knew of. And now once that bus would get you into Detroit proper, there was the People Mover, there was much more bus activity, and you can get around Detroit. I lived in the suburbs. I didn't need to get to Detroit all the time. I needed to get around my neighborhood, my city. That wasn't available. Moved to Kalamazoo, and I saw what a transit system looked like for the first time. Moved to Grand Rapids, and I was blown away. Now I've lived here for a handful of years, and I run into barrier after barrier after barrier. Whether it's getting to medical appointments, people constantly say Rockford's an amazing place. It's kind of hard for me to get there. The ballpark, no transit there. And yes, as Casey alluded to, sometimes can afford an Uber. Sometimes I can afford to get a ride. But it's one thing to get a ride to a place. It's a whole other story trying to get an Uber back from a place where there's not a lot of movement.
John, I think you bring up another really good point there. So many of the systems we have put in place, they're static. This is the schedule. It is always the schedule. And we have baseball games at LMCU Ballpark maybe 90 days out of 365 a year. The rest of the time, that little stretch probably isn't a major destination. But anybody who has been a resident of Grand Rapids can tell you what the traffic looks like for anybody in that area. Coming up West River Drive, Cannonsburg Road, 131, when it's a ball game, before or after. Try and get an Uber. Good luck. It's going to cost an arm and a leg, literally. So it's if we create a system that works around what's happening, maybe a system that really ramps it up when there is an event at Panhandle or the new amphitheater or a game at the soccer stadium. When there is a festival downtown like World of Winter or Art Prize. Ramp around the events. It doesn't, there isn't a one size fits all. We don't need a static solution of this is what we need. We need a dynamic, diverse, creative solution that is adjustable, that we can shift as we need to make this happen.
I mean, you think about fixed line buses, there's certain times that they just don't run. When I lived in Kalamazoo, they did not have Sunday service at the time. So as far as I was concerned, I had to get everything I needed to be done on Saturday done because Sunday didn't exist. Sunday was not an opportunity for me to go to the grocery store, go pick up prescriptions, go see friends. Sunday was just kind of a null day because there was no opportunity, no availability for service.
Used to be that way too.
Yep.
And when you go back in the 70s, on Saturdays, the buses used to run. And then in the early 80s, they changed the bus schedule, and it didn't start till 11 o'clock on Saturday. And they only did it till 6 o'clock on Saturday, and that was it. And there was nothing on Sunday for anything, go bus or whatever. So it was really, things have improved over the years for the 6 cities, but not necessarily in a lot of ways for the whole county.
Now, just each time there has been that incremental increase of some more availability, some more accessibility. How much of a life changer is each one of those steps, Casey?
Well, I think there's different elements to look at when you talk about accessibility and being able to move freely. I think accessibility comes in various forms, like having the ability to read something either through speech or a braille display is one form. The ability to walk around your community and hear the sounds, and if you can see what's around you, and learn the neighborhoods and just enjoying a nice walk, or the accessibility of some of the equipment out there, like the Ray-Ban glasses or some of the other technology that can actually describe the scenery to you. The ability to get to a venue yourself, whether it's your doctor's office, whether it's a senior center or whatever, and to be able to maneuver to where you want to go is you want to feel just as free as everyone else, and that's sometimes very difficult to do, but and challenging, even if you have the accessibility. So accessibility means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, depending upon what they're trying to achieve in their life.
But I think you hit the key thing I was looking for there. It's more freedom. Every step that we take in the fight for mobility is more freedom for everybody. So I guess for both of you, at the end of the day, when we're talking Unstoppable Kent, what's kind of your ideal outcome?
Well,
Go ahead, Casey.
if we're going to move forward, and I've said this to Michael before, so this is not a surprise to him, we need more voices. We need more voices in a variety of different ways. We need the liberal voices, we need the conservative voices. Sometimes I think the disability community stereotypes itself without meaning to make people think they come from one perspective, one spectrum. And that's not true. So when we go to our politicians, particularly the more conservative-minded, we're already labeled. So one of our challenges, how do we brand that message to say that we're not promoting or supporting just one political aspect, accessibility and free mobility, affordable mobility is for all people of all different beliefs, races, colors, political ideology.
Yep, disability is the largest cross-categorical minority group.
But we sometimes, I believe, put ourselves in a corner where we're only represented by a certain group of people. So how do we change that? How do we bring new voices in? Because I've been a voice for DAC for a long time and on and on different occasions. But I'm not going to be here forever. Some of the others have been around for a long time. They're not going to be here either. So we need to recruit and we need to get a variety of voices.
The old guard can only stand for so long. Got to bring in the new, the fresh, and keep revitalizing that voice.
I think, this really touches on something important. While yes, we form out of DAC, disability advocates, while yes, a large part of our core group is, facing accessibility challenges, to succeed, we need a fully inclusive movement. We need to be having conversation with employers and employees, because getting to work is that's how we live. That's important.
Is it only people with disabilities that need to get to work?
No, it's everybody. But I, for lack of getting too political, but a large percentage of our current workforce is undocumented. They cannot get driver's licenses. Now, I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. It is the fact of our workforce. Those people, both employers and the employees, need to be able to get to work. If we don't have a system for them, what are they doing? They're driving illegally without any check to see if they're even qualified to be behind the wheel. When we think about a bus that isn't available in the middle of the night, or an Uber system that prices jack up in the middle of the night, now we're putting all of our third shift and second shift folks on the road with a bunch of drunk drivers who have no other alternatives because there's either a price barrier or just not availability. This is about safety. This is about access. This is about equity. This is about inclusion, and this is about economy. This is about building a successful, thriving city. This is for everyone, no matter your political ideology, no matter what's in your garage, or even if you have a garage. You may not even have a home. This matters to you. What this is about is connecting people. We live in a very divisive time. All we want to do is be able to connect. It's a nonpartisan issue, and we do need to be talking with everybody about what their issues do look like, because everyone is experiencing some level of transportation barrier, even if that's just congestion on their morning commute. That is a transportation barrier. And what we're working for doesn't just solve for a person with disabilities and their liberation as an individual. It also solves for that person that is dealing with congestion. We are, in fact, solving all these problems by working inclusively for any of these solutions.
So when we are talking Unstoppable Kent, and we are putting out that call to action, looking for allies, looking for individuals to join this movement, though this movement is starting from a realm of disability and accessibility, that's not who you guys are looking for when you're recruiting. You're looking for people on all spectrums of transportation and mobility.
Absolutely. Anybody that has a stake, which in my opinion, and I think Casey would agree, is everybody. I do think it's important that we are, as a core team, largely founded in disability and advocacy around access, because so often when we do movements like this, access is kind of forgotten. We've seen it in DEI movements. John, you know that better than most. The accessibility always takes a back seat really quick. It's important that we're at the core, but it's not just for us. It's not just for those people. It is for everybody.
Well, and I think, go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I think one of the things that we do pretty well compared to other elements of DEI is that we do, without conflict, allow and accept different views. We have that in our group now at times. So, you know, that's one of our strengths is we are able to welcome all different views, because that's been one of the things that not only myself, but some others have also promoted, that we want to hear the differences and the different ideology. We don't want just one point of view. And I think that's one of the strengths that we have that we really don't celebrate enough or talk about.
When bringing all those voices in, and when you have many voices sending out a similar message, everybody comes from their own perspective, but where there's that layover, where there's the crossing of that need and transportation being a need, that voice amplifies.
And absolutely. And, you know, my needs versus Casey's needs versus your needs, John, versus the needs of that employer or that late night party goer at the intersection pyramid scheme or one of the nightclubs in the Bob, or, you know, a visitor to our city. All of
That individual
needs,
who decides to be more eco-friendly and ride their bike to work.
absolutely. All those needs are very diverse and different from each other. What we are trying to do is make sure that those needs are weighed and conveyed adequately and equitably throughout the planning processes that are happening right now. The decisions that are being made behind closed doors that at large, unless you're constantly digging through a county or state budget or website, you probably don't know is happening within your home community. And so really, you know, my next thing is like, how do we get people connected to us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How do people join? How do people participate?
So I think right now, one of the biggest things people can do is reach out to me directly. Finding where you fit, or, you know, are you part of Unstoppable Kent, or, you know, do you need to be more active in like the Essential Needs Task Force at the county level, working on transportation with a bunch of community-based organizations that provide services to people that need transportation in addition to their services, or maybe their transportation providers. One of the things Unstoppable Kent has going for it is we do have a lot of people sitting in various positions across various planning and, you know, advocacy groups in the county working on this issue. What Unstoppable's big goal is uniting all those efforts and voices. But I think reaching out to me, michael.w@dakc.us. If it's easier, you can also call me, 616-323-2236. I probably won't answer, but I will answer your voicemail. And just letting us know, why is transportation important to you? And what would get you involved? Why do you want to be involved? How do you want to be involved? Because there isn't one solution. There isn't one piece of our strategy or tactic in our strategy that looks like the other. We need all types. It's going to take businesses. It's going to take investors. It's going to take individuals that rely on it. It's going to take individuals that have never used public transportation a day in their life. It's going to take people with disabilities. It's going to take people that just like to problem solve.
It's going to take the
Yeah.
young, it's going to take the old, it's going to take everybody in between.
Absolutely. We are working on getting our old CCIT group's Facebook page updated, but it is not yet. Hopefully within the next week, you'll be able to find Unstoppable Kent on Facebook.
Okay. Yep, so a place to join on social media and help get your voice heard. And also reaching out to Michael to join and find out how you can participate is a way that literally everybody can join because everybody has a stake in this. I guess at this point we have momentum with Unstoppable Kent, and momentum is key right now, and we need individuals, we need groups, we need all voices in this effort. Casey, Michael, I appreciate you guys taking some time today to share with us the important work that Unstoppable Kent is doing and that future goal of what barrier-free mobility could look like. Dare we say mobility for all?
Absolutely.
Keep fighting the good fight. Before you go, any parting words that you guys might have? Casey?
Well, I think that people need to understand the importance of advocacy, the importance of getting involved. I know we live in a time of where people are afraid to share their views if they differ from someone else's, regardless of where you start. And I say this group is really pretty good about that, and I don't think that there should be any fear of that. But we need to know your stories. We need to know the needs, and we need to be able to take this movement beyond the disability community to all citizens who are willing to talk about the need for affordable and accessible mobility, which includes transportation and that sort of thing. So don't be afraid. Advocacy is a long road. It's something that feels like it never ends, and maybe it probably doesn't. But when you do make successes and have things that you've achieved, it can be very exciting when you're able to celebrate those achievements. So it's not a one-day thing. It's kind of a lifetime thing, but there are a lot of good things that you can enjoy if you take part and get involved with the successes that we may have. May take a while, but they do happen.
Advocacy is a marathon, not a sprint, and dare I say, less intimidating than the cardio involved in a marathon. I struggle with the thought of a 5K, so I feel it.
So, I think that brings up the good point, and what I'd like to leave with is advocacy looks like a lot of things. Not everybody has the capacity to show up to a bi-weekly meeting that we have, or to show up to a countywide mobility task force, or maybe the Rapids board meeting, or maybe participating in a Grand Valley Metro Council planning board. Not everybody is able to participate in one of those ways that involves actually being able to be transported somewhere first. One of the biggest ways you can help is by sharing information, sharing this episode, sharing our Facebook page once it is live, reaching out and giving us the information we need to make an informed decision in our strategy making beyond just our own experiences. Participation looks like a lot of things, and any engagement is positive engagement. Criticism helps us grow as much as does more people just beating the same drum.
Well, you've heard it, folks. We got this unstoppable advocacy group here in our community, Unstoppable Kent. To learn more about them, potentially even join, you can reach out to Disability Advocates Community Organizer Michael Williams at michael.w@dakc.us. You can also follow Disability Advocates on social media for news and information that might be coming out on that event, including a upcoming potential transportation forum in April. So much more. Unstoppable Kent will soon have its own social media presence, and the momentum keeps going. Thank you both.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Unstoppable Kent is doing some absolutely amazing work, and we here at Flattening the Curb look forward to tracking their future progress. Now, for all of you, do tune in next time as we sit down with something very near and dear to my heart, the Michigan Sports Education Camp for athletes with vision impairments. We'll be joined by Camp Director Scott Ford as we look at what is Sports Education Camp and how we all can be a part of this amazing camp. Thank you all, and have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. Recording. Once again, this has been John Couchy with Flattening the Curb, a podcast brought to you by Disability Advocates. For more information on our organization, engage with us on social media and visit our website at dakc.us. Like and subscribe, hit that notification bell to be alerted when our next episode drops. And remember, you can't have inclusion without accessibility. So let's build a more inclusive world, one story at a time.